Rising Edge will have you cut upwards into the air while granting super armor and has 3 stages. Uncharged, it will only perform 1 hit. The first state of charge will hit 3 times and is actually the best one to use specifically for DPS. The second state of charge, or full charge, hits 5 times and has an even longer animation than the previous, but it's also easier on your resources. Like many other sword PAs, the charge time on this will be reduced depending on your accumulated focus. And this PA will become a rather important part of your gameplay due to it rising you up to combo into other things, as well as being able to make use of Hunter's charge parry skill, which lets you block while charging a PA. Twisted Drop props you up into the air to do some vertical spinning slices before slamming down to the ground, which will then create a shockwave that scales its range depending on how much focus you have accumulated at that time, and it can also be used mid-air to bypass the beginning of the animation. There's then a crafted version of Twisted Drop, which is almost the same thing, but allows you to hold the PA down to keep spinning and is stronger. However, the most optimal way to use this for damage is to actually just tap it, and this is because you want to make use of the shockwave as much as possible. And just like the uncrafted version, this should be used while in the air to significantly shorten the animation, and that can be done quite regularly by comboing this after something else that would already put you up into the air, like Rising Edge. Nova Strike is your typical whirlwind type PA that just spins you around with some super armor. Uncharged, it only hits once. Stage 1 charge hits 3 times, and a full charge hits 4 times. And all of these charge times are affected by your focus. Crosscut increases the size of your sword with photons, to then perform 2 horizontal cuts, which are then followed up with a powerful downward slice, which hits 3 times, the last of which hits the hardest. Keep in mind this only really damages what's in front of you, and your aim is to at least land the last downward strike. Crosscut does have super armor and can be cancelled out of with a block too. Blade Bash is a very simple PA that is used to stun enemies by striking them with the side of your sword. And this is really only ever used to start a combo and make use of Tech Art's perfect attack bonus when using a fighter sub. Sonic Arrow throws out a spinning photon blade that can pass through enemies and is amazing for building up focus. Use it as you see fit, as it has a few practical applications, but is mostly used to clear out tight packs of mobs or to start off your rotation. Merciless Throw stabs an enemy and then picks it up if it can, to then throw it while also tossing out a projectile that explodes. The entire animation will still occur whether or not the enemy is picked up. And while it does do some decent damage, this PA is rather situational, and is often neglected due to having lots of other useful PAs at your disposal. Guilty Break charges you forward, first ramming an enemy with your shoulder, to then follow up with a quick flurry of attacks. This can be used uncharged, or up to 2 stages of charge, each of which simply increase the speed at which you travel and its distance. The charge speed is also significantly reduced according to how much focus you have. In general, this PA will be your go-to for mobility, and can even be used in the air, and is also great for single target DPS. Ride Slash is a gap closer PA that hops you onto your sword to then ride it around in the air. Uncharged, it hits twice and has no protections. The first state of charge has 3 hits and grants super armor. The second and final stage of charge hits 4 times and also has super armor too. And speaking of charge, the focus speed is hastened according to your focus accumulation. It is recommended to mainly use this in the air, as doing so will cut out some of the animation that does no damage. All in all, there are better PAs to use in most situations, but it can be pretty useful against enemies near walls. Sacrificial Bite stabs your enemies to give back some PP, and also applies an aura to your sword that also gives a very minuscule PP regen buff. There's then a crafted version of this, which makes it completely worth using again, as the stab becomes more of a lunge that acts as a short gap closer. Furthermore, you will gain a more noticeable aura that increases your attack range and augments your sidestep strikes to be much more fluid. Ignition Parry is not yet in the Western version of the game, but it's an amazing PA, arguably the best. Normally, it will do 6 slashes in front of you. However, if you perfect guard during the animation with the weapon action,
the PA's damage and animation speed will dramatically increase. Keep in mind that the brunt of the damage is at the end of the PA, and that it is best used while airborne so that you are kept in place, which makes countering easier, opposed to used when on the ground where you would slowly be moved forward.
Lastly, the sword has access to a complex PA, and these are also not yet in the North American version of the game just yet. But right now, it's currently named Imperial Cleave, and it will perform a large photonic slash from your sword. Do note that its damage only scales off of your melee power and not any multipliers from your skill trees or augments. However, shifted does still affect this. Depending on what you're fighting, to get the most out of this PA, it is suggested to not be too close to your target, and being up in the air helps too. And that's about it for Hunter Sword PAs. I'll be leaving a few Hunter-specific links in the description along with the usual ones, and with that, take care.